1 month after my daughter's wedding, the photographer called me at 6:03 a.m. and whispered, "Sir, I found something in your daughter's wedding photos. Something that will destroy your family. Come alone. And don't tell your daughter." That was the moment I realized someone I loved had been lying to me for years. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in Paradise Valley when everything began to collapse. I just sat down with a cup of coffee, reviewing financial reports, enjoying the quiet house I'd spent 40 years building. And then my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. "Mr. Reynolds?" A shaky female voice said. "This is Carolyn Thornton, the photographer from Jacqueline's wedding. I need you to come to my studio today. And please, don't tell your daughter. Photographers don't speak like that. Not unless something is very, very wrong." I hadn't even processed the call when my younger daughter Wendy burst into my office demanding a new car, complaining that her 7-year-old Honda was embarrassing, insisting I buy her something nicer. 31 years old, living in my house for 4 years, with a boyfriend who didn't work and contributed nothing. And right behind her came Benjamin, the same boyfriend, strolling in without knocking, reminding me that maybe I should just give her the money to keep the peace. Their entitlement, their assumption that my money existed for their comfort, felt suddenly louder than ever, like someone had ripped the filter off my ears. That evening, my elder daughter Jacqueline stopped by. Perfect hair, perfect outfit, perfect smile. The daughter who always knew how to present herself like a product. She didn't even sit down before saying, "Dad, Samuel and I found the perfect house. We just need 40,000 for the down payment. I know you'll help. You always do. 40,000. Spoken casually, like she was asking to borrow scissors. Something in my chest tightened in a way I didn't recognize. But the worst part hadn't even begun. The next morning, I drove to Carolyn's studio downtown. The air inside felt too still, too deliberate. She gestured for me to sit and turned her monitor toward me. "Mr. Reynolds, I need to show you something." And then my world split open. On the screen was Samuel, my new son-in-law in his tuxedo holding a red-haired woman, kissing her passionately. Not a drunken moment, not a goodbye hug, but a deliberate, intimate kiss. Carolyn's voice broke when she said, "These were taken 2 hours before the ceremony." 2 hours. The woman wore a wedding ring. Another man's wife. My future son-in-law was cheating on my daughter literally hours before vowing eternal loyalty. I stared at the screen, my hands numb, my heartbeat somehow both slow and thunderous. The drive home felt like wading through thick fog. But one question echoed louder than my lungs could hold. Why marry Jacqueline at all? If he already had another woman? And then everything aligned with a horrifying simplicity. Jacqueline and Samuel had insisted that guests give only money, no gifts. They'd opened a joint bank account 2 months before the wedding. They'd collected over 45,000 from guests, plus 15,000 in a personal check handed directly to Samuel, plus the 20,000 I wrote for them myself. This wasn't a marriage. It was a financial operation, a coordinated cash extraction. And Jacqueline, my daughter, my pride, my success story, was in on it. When I got home that day, I intended to go straight to my office, shut the door, and sit with the truth until my mind caught up with my eyes. But as I stepped through the hallway, I heard Wendy upstairs. Her voice carried, too loud, too careless, the way she always spoke when she felt completely safe. "Yeah, Dad's acting weird lately," she said on the phone. "But don't worry, sis. Ben and I can stretch this another 6 months easy. By then he'll cave and buy us that condo just to get rid of us." I froze. My hand touched the wall to steady myself. And then I heard Jacqueline's voice from Wendy's phone speaker, laughing, "Perfect. I've got 2 more months of playing happy wife. Then I file. Half the gifts are legally mine in Arizona. Samuel already agreed to a 60-40 split. Easiest $45,000 we ever made." My ears rang. My chest tightened. My world twisted. My daughters, my children, were conspiring against me. Wendy laughed. "And Sam's girlfriend doesn't even know about the plan." They laughed together, like 2 actresses reading lines from a script they'd rehearsed 100 times. Jacqueline continued, "Just keep him distracted. Make him think you need something big. That way, when I ask for the house down payment, it won't seem excessive." Wendy answered proudly, "Already on it. Asked him for a new car yesterday. He looked annoyed, but he'll come around. He always does." Something inside me shattered, but not loudly. Quietly, like a rope finally snapping after years of strain. I stepped back silently and retreated to my office. My heartbeat thudded in my ears as I closed the door. I sat there, in the dark, with the truth burning through me like acid. My daughters didn't see me as a father, not as family. To them, I was a financial resource, a man-shaped wallet, and they were strategizing how to drain every dollar before discarding me. I opened my laptop, typed, "Property lawyer, Phoenix, Arizona." I found a name, Robert McKenzie. 25 years of experience. Real estate, trusts, asset protection. He had an opening the next morning at 9 a.m. I booked it immediately. That night I slept 3 hours at best. My mind kept replaying the same scenes. Samuel kissing the red-haired woman, Jacqueline laughing about the money, Wendy planning how to squeeze me further, Benjamin, the parasite, always lurking behind her shoulder. The next morning I drove downtown. Mackenzie's office was on the 23rd floor. Glass windows, polished wood, the air thick with quiet authority. He listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The affair photos, the phone conversation I overheard, the years Wendy and Benjamin had lived in my house without paying rent, the recent demands, the manipulation. When I finished, he set his pen down carefully. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, "you are being exploited, but the good news is you have every legal right to take your life back." Those words hit me like cold water. Take my life back. He explained that Wendy and Benjamin had no lease, no formal agreement. In Arizona, that meant one thing. You can legally evict them with a 30-day notice. They have no standing to fight it. My breath left me in a slow, heavy exhale. Courtesy, not a negotiation. For the first time in years, I felt something close to power. Then Mackenzie said, "And if you want to ensure your assets go where you choose after your death, we create an irrevocable trust. They won't be able to challenge it." The room felt different after that. Clearer, sharper, like I'd finally found the exit to a cage I didn't realize I'd been in. I signed his engagement agreement on the spot. $8,500 to handle everything. The eviction, the trust, the restructuring of my estate. Money well spent. Far better spent than on manipulation and guilt. 2 days later, the official eviction notices arrived. Heavy envelopes, thick paper, legal weight. I held them in my hands for a long moment before walking to the living room where Wendy and Benjamin sat comfortably, watching TV like they owned the place. Benjamin didn't even look up. "Grab me another beer while you're up." I placed the envelopes on the coffee table. "What's this?" Wendy asked. She opened hers, her face drained of color. "Dad, what is this?" Benjamin tore his open and shot to his feet. Have you lost your mind, old man? You can't evict family. You've had 4 years, I said evenly. You now have 30 days. Wendy began to cry instantly, weaponized tears that had worked on me for years. Dad, please, how can you do this? I'm your daughter. Benjamin tried intimidation, stepping closer, lowering his voice. Everyone will know what kind of father you are. 30 days, I repeated, and then I walked away. They had no idea this was only the beginning. The following days unfolded like a quiet war. No screaming battles, no dramatic confrontations, just a steady unraveling of the lies that had ruled my house for years. Wendy tried every tactic, sobbing loudly so I'd hear her through the walls, claiming she was too stressed to move, even pretending to faint in the living room. Benjamin switched between threats and manipulation. One moment warning me I'd die alone, the next moment handing me sloppy handwritten business proposals, asking for $50,000 for a brewery idea that would keep the family together. I ignored them both. Every morning was a countdown. 25 days. 20. 17. Their desperation grew. Mine evaporated. One evening, Jacqueline and Samuel arrived uninvited, armed with smiles so fake they cracked around the edges. Dad, Jacqueline said, setting groceries on the counter as if she'd always been the caring daughter. We thought we'd make dinner for you. You seem stressed. They cooked like a performance, whispering to Wendy and Benjamin whenever they thought I wasn't looking. Halfway through the meal, Jacqueline cleared her throat, switching into her marketing executive voice. Dad, this house is just a lot for someone your age. This big, hard to manage. Have you thought about selling it? You could move into a nice condo somewhere peaceful. And of course, we'd help. Samuel chimed in, smiling the smile of a man who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. The market is great right now. You could easily get 7 figures for this place. Wendy leaned forward. And then we could all, share the proceeds. Help each other. Help the family. The word family hit me like a sour smell. They meant, take your house money and divide it among ourselves while leaving you with nothing. I quietly set down my fork. I'm not selling my house. The air froze. Jacqueline tried again, her voice sharpened by entitlement and disbelief. Dad, you're being unreasonable. Nobody is taking advantage of. I stood up, wiped my mouth, and left the table without another word. In my office, I called Mackenzie. It's time to accelerate the trust. That night, while they were still in my kitchen cleaning dishes they'd only dirted to manipulate me, I drove to Mackenzie's office. By midnight, all documents were prepared. Every asset, including the house, business, savings, transferred into an irrevocable trust. They would inherit nothing except the legal minimum required by state law. When I got home, the house was quiet, not peaceful. Quiet like a predator waiting in the dark. 10 days left. The psychological games escalated. My coffee maker accidentally broke. Furniture was moved, supposedly, to help me reorganize. Wendy cried loudly on the phone to neighbors, claiming I was throwing her pregnant body onto the street. She wasn't pregnant. Benjamin tried to intimidate me in the garage, blocking the doorway. People will know you're a monster. They'll hate you for this. 9 days, I said calmly. He stepped aside. 7 days left. I returned home to find my office door slightly cracked. Someone had been inside. The trust papers sat exactly where I left them, almost. The edges were bent differently. They'd looked. They'd read. They finally understood the truth. The money, the inheritance, the assets, gone. Protected. Out of their reach forever. The rage in the house thickened like humidity. On day 5, Wendy tried one last emotional ambush. She knocked on my office door alone. Tears ready. Voice trembling. "Dad, I've been thinking. You were right about Ben. He's a bad influence. I want to change. I want to fix our relationship. Please, give me another chance." Her performance would have fooled a stranger. But not me. Not anymore. "Wendy," I said, "if you truly realized your mistakes, you wouldn't be asking for forgiveness in exchange for something. You'd accept the consequences and change your life. But you're here because you want the house and the inheritance." Her tears evaporated instantly. Rage replaced them. "Fine. Be alone. Die alone. Don't expect us to help." 5 days, I said. She stormed away. The next days blurred into tension and silence. Until day 30, the final day, I pulled into the driveway. The sheriff's vehicle followed. Mackenzie arrived seconds later. Deputy Martinez approached me. "Ready, Mr. Reynolds?" We walked to the front door. Even though it was my house, I knocked. Benjamin shouted from inside, "Go away! You can't do this." Martinez stepped forward. "Sir, this is the sheriff's office. Open the door or we will open it for you." After a long pause, the door cracked open. Wendy stood there, hair messy, face blotched from crying. Behind her, the living room looked like a storm had passed through. Clothes everywhere, beer cans on the table, not a single box packed. They had never planned to leave. Martinez gave them 2 hours to take personal belongings. Clothes only. No furniture. No appliances. No items bought with my money. Benjamin tried to fight. "You're ruining our lives. You selfish old." Martinez shut him down. "Sir, pack your things. Now." 2 hours later, they walked to their car, dragging bags, Wendy crying, Benjamin glaring at me like a dog that had lost its teeth. At the car door, Wendy turned. "You'll regret this. You'll regret pushing your family away." I answered with a calm I couldn't have imagined 30 days earlier. "I won't." They drove away, their old sedan sputtering as it disappeared down the street. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had heard in years. For the first time in 4 years, my house was truly mine. 3 days later, Jacqueline called. Her voice was pure venom. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family." "No," I said. "I stopped letting you destroy me." She hung up. Samuel texted later, offering me $10,000 to stay quiet during their divorce. I blocked the number. Weeks passed. The house remained peaceful. Wendy and Benjamin moved into a cheap apartment. Jacqueline and Samuel lost most of their wedding money to legal fees. And me? I reclaimed my life. I began guitar lessons. I volunteered at the senior center. I drank coffee on my terrace every morning without hearing demands, tears, or manipulation. And one day, the photographer who had started it all, Carolyn, called and asked how I was doing. For the first time in a long time, I answered honestly, "I'm good." For the first time in years, I'm truly good. And I meant it. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a locked door. Sometimes it's signing a trust document at midnight. And sometimes justice is simply choosing yourself.